I notes, I notes, in store. I notes, I notes, I notes, in store. Revival. What's pathetic enough for the consider that for the blind person and what you see from what you get and you can never. I notes,
I notes, in store. Revival. What's pathetic enough for the consider that for the blind person and what you see for what you get and you can never go and mumble it up for your breath and for the rest of the day, for the high, for the seek, for the forgiveness and what you provide for revitalize a picture for your frame, but this would be the argument that contains it, the music teach for the learning high notes. Low-key misunderstood for the standing, for the burning grounds and the burning bridges, for your demolition, for the accidental acid wounds, for your turn for the termination to pathetic humans, and this would be the real music. You can go for the piano, for you can see at the sensitive enough for the eardrum, beating that for the nerve for the beating, for the this to be the metronome, or home for the lone, but home and the self-care, for the space between God and this and planet, for the involuntary, for there's nothing else and I can find a prosperity for the God, for the use to me like I can never define the physics of the bite, for the drifting slowly enough, for the way for the sound of the piano, for the high notes and low-key faded. It's competent enough for the what you can set for the word, for it doesn't seem like you are the only reason you have a problem, for the floating promises and under bridges and burning your demolition, for the exit wound, for the long-term terminology, for the apologetic, for the rhetoric, for the disability to consider even life for the honor you ignore, and storing your insecurity, for the protection what you find ensuring, for all states of mind, for the couldn't sleep in your dream, for the gentle wandering and spreading words around, pathetically for the poetic way, for the reason I could never go, for the underway, for the safety, for the waking you're crossing over my mind and rush over, but can't be too responsible enough for the leap of faith, for the blind day, for the blind, for the unraveling, and myself for the before your eyes, and let it hear that for the heartbeat, for the don't doubt, against that for the birth, for the flower, for the illusion, for the sun, it's only the paradise of the revelation, and light that for the love, for the only the breathing of the fire hiding, oh, the gestures for the big compliments, and this would be the side that for the way music has that piano for trying to say what my heart is, and I consider for the blind person, you can do it with it, you can have that for the only the heart to mumble, for the burning bridges and demolition, the accidental acid wounds of your turn, their termination for the pathetic ways we find that misunderstood for the one place and told that for the lost of the found, for the melody, for the piano, for the melancholy, for the scratching those on hard to reach and place it for your lack of the better explanation, for the make it comfortable enough to explain, except that word for the one that doesn't find and what you find a reason for the just to be the problem for the floating your promises under your burning bridges, and you can find an evolution, a demolition for the exit wounds in your situations in life I can't see, only to compare what was buried enough for the be naked to me I can be. I notes in store. Revival. What's pathetic? I notes. I notes. In store. Revival.
to walk past nothing in manipulation, the lies downright played dead well, breathing down the stuttering eyes and ear. Guess those ideologies weren't as universal as you believe. Everyone did that for the infighting in the games and played unwillingly. And when will that loss of consideration to settle before the next season to lose? What's forgotten but us reborn for this and that to be the board for the course and this to be the right for the wrong. So not for the past of the past, and the wiggle for the flaunting of it, what you can carry. Wait at that for the impatient, for the donkey without locks to engage in will of phone to find the vows, divide to uphold your teachers without principles. The district for the degree, pressure placed to those common grounds for the brainwashing of what you can find and what you dread for the developing of the course hair for the course you can get it for the executing your oxymorons. Hippies to take shortcuts to the long hair, grind what you can't grind for the waiting for the gravity to release your resistance, and this is what they meant to place your yourself in the placement for the anywhere for you can have the acceptance, ignorance, belonging to be sooner than that for the when you're ready for the delay, anticipated for the state for the no context and no content for the contentment for the initials have been signed, preliminary for the responsibility for the prior advisory will be magically prevented for the magic of the not knowing where you are for the not knowing where admitted for the enter the way unpaid unearned wage to wedge through for the drives to doubts to rest restraints restrain for the death for what you want for the this to be the all for the extracts for you have to claim fitted for the no bell to blow for the whistle to ring you'll figure that plaques fact that flips to the past to the habits of the lamp for the only decay remember for the sample of the memories you recall back it if you ever had to call it ID for the idea for the sheep will answer you're the eyes in you for the high distance that was shortened to see the levels of the rise of that for the new for the awareness and apparently time taking to pass that for the only to pose find this another reason he's a man who had a wife but couldn't find how's everything going here I am.
Given moon, she could be found under that for the given tree for the remembrance. Bellies to Buddha, learning for the language divided for the simplicity, for the gentleness, and only the petals can give. Cheeks, blush, brushes, crack of smiles, flowery language. Perfume, stenches deep for the steep. Past the teeth for the clench of the fear, for the revealing the fists of flaws. Other than yet she feels flying enough for the wings and feet. Greek gods left that for the speeches and find a stone exterior. Mercury, witness the birth and those that rebirth to the presenting of the fortunes, like the silver for the stringing the constellations. Above the bed for the head, for they only captivated for the truth, and you can forget. Remember not for the one time, lifetime for the set of the meaning. Chorus sung by that hooded sister, requested for the sequester for the probing. Old man for the night for the clean, the cold, the warm blood. Symbolism for the withered falling from the angels. Concentrated with the linear for the limits, like start crossing over the dodgeball for souls. Stand behind those sun for the own self practice, for the distracted for the shadows, and life on the wall for the entertaining sake. Shades, increased glass, stick for the light. Girls fit for the tongue tied for the expectation for the manufacturer for the dulled out for the doll faces with the foundation crumbled for the mismatch and rush to the inspection objective for the weeping mothers everywhere for the crying babies. Mascara, watch fleeting phase, escape for the closet. Wardrobes of the words for the mouthpiece for the crunch out the spirit like your Cheetos and cheese enough for the calculated cunnings and caterers for the hungry citizens. Less is and more hungry, distraction for the blaming of victims, captivated for the capital punishment for the colors for the wars and cooked up for the prepackaged and enemies imperfect for the even digestions. Before the opioid induced the slumber for the deceit, like that for the Play-Doh smells. Smells to that for the this to be the good, for the taste of the bad, for the ancient rhymes to the different life to deliver the babies in the toy land of spiritual method. Hot bad for the tongues, sticky for the spoil, that for the inheritance, and over the deserve, that for the beneath, that for the insect of the wings and profits. Profit what you self-proclaim. Plagiarism for the forest, for defeating the falling stars of the falling again, for the to be the scared, sacred, soaked surfaces for the searching of the birthmark for the identification. Created by the generous and the thirst for the steaming of soil, for the wide blue moon, for the bare witness tip of the baskets to be left by wings and creature, for the native tongue, this to be the fourth. Spit, venom for the full of save, skin, concealed for the maiden for the revelations forged, with the one to define the worth of earth and treadmills with the tipping points and sharpen your observes and your universal dialect for the angels were free to reveal your wings and this revealing it upon the earth. Let's go, reveal, let it go, you feel. Flash not for to be cheaper enough for the cheaping yourself like you had the permission, the right for the memorizing, for the what you had to flash to find a radio and waving of freedom for guilt by you'll have that red, white, and blue for the distance for the relationship, but it was all that melancholy for you for the return. That for the still, for the burning, for the sensations, for the one to define the memories until you kind of catnip with the nipple for the parents and time and white and white and that can this would be the lost ways and save. Take a hike, take a price. And this would be the price for the burn, for the only to cross it where you can find the path and pressure for the years to go for the flashing of the flesh you need to return. One swim, not for the catapult, just for the time to begin. This for the minute again, for the you can see me through, for this to be the what you did, for the smelling and the shame, for the this to be the frankly I did it your way, for the turning of ears and only reading with the broadcast and pass your antenna to receiving points like an octave finding what to getting wrong and guiding, living, getting return to the cursing for the taste of the death, for the over the November, for the you can remember when the animals were eating canyon.
Stamped to the brain, expedited for the ship to the location for the be rare wrong for the wealth cheap rare any stories for heal the division for the destiny better yet for the contentment for the confinement for the tone for the it was only too loud to comprehend the technological for the comprehension what you can find without either wrong demanding something or something whether someone for the different than what I can read it for the this to be the doubts to the whether the people for the weapon and what you weep and this is seeping the solve for this is shame even more instead putting it out for the this to be the backyard for the process. Or the hives you can find for the dreams of the night, for the clouds and the clouds and the changing moods and the shifting shapes. And this would be the dreams into the night for the mirrors to the ways to the items to the subtle memory banks. And where you find the overdraft accounts to save yourself for the work. And it can be spending time for the spending someone, somebody else and anything. For the this to be the caring about for the saving, for the hardship for the poor. For these if I spend time send over receive for the overdrafts and frontline stones. These backpack and back around, that for the burden for the people for the carry on. You couldn't walk with it anymore without the people thinking never stable enough for them to be questioning instinct. Smelling something fishy but can't find a sense of this is what is missing for the evidence of the proof. Reading your age, or this would be the knot for the page. You can find a reading for the rights of the citizens arrested. This would be the rest of remaining peace in this blind spot for the eye, for the only the storm, for the air, that for the mildew, for the situation, the signals, and potent and guilt and the breeze. Internet for the streets, for this is your own city, for the where you reside. You're married to the people for the votes of person, your insecurities and the totes. Store it or not for the grinds, for the errors so you can have the errands, and maybe that for you're ignorant enough to store you return, and yes, the refund for the recalling for the thought. Reclaim yourself for the endless, for the entitled, for the entertained. Greed and grind and grind and great voids. And this is designed for the art and you intelligent, but not to reserve the resources for the reservoirs that are green. Disagree. You find this trying to find this to be the rebuttal for the inside of you can find it. Rebound for this to be the foul play. After all, free throws and that has been practiced enough with the promising advance for years of blowing. Went up the asset for the city, going to assets for the settling down. With these assets, they can't feel the part for the far, apart for the shit for the far out. With these, it can't kind of control for the leaking, for the waste of the being held up by the smell of the shift. And this will be the smell for the feeling compassion to help you clean over the aroma. Members of the lesson that should be the thing for the claw, for the arm, for the attack, for the mold, for the this to be the food, for the digestion, for the human being. We have the Lord for the order to contain. You're purchasing for the temptation over what you insulted for the stealing with no security guarding, and for the sight, for the surveillance, for the making yourself, for the feeling you're alienated, for the morals, and you can find a mortician for the mortals and find the flowers to find a serenade. Opportunities to be like the ceremonies. Cremation for the promises, for the to be the promises, for the heating, for the memories, to spread your ashes on your reservation, the landfills of time, but like the haunting truth for the interpretation, for the perspective. Truthful, hurt, odor, those places on the lines and those in your respect for this to be the property. And just the trespassing approaching, next stop for the celebrating, for the past yourself and present pedals, and find the comfort for the level for the you can have the soul for the pedestrian. That for the ghost town, pedals for not for the comfort for the soul. This for the ghosts, and not to find that for the dying. This for the days, for the this for acceptance, for the only being socially accepting out of life, and not for anything, for the giving over, the hoarder, for the hearts, and this would be the organs you played over that song, for this is sincere, fair, this is believing your past, to the present, for the effort, for the future, for the breaking out of something never you can give. Stages for the bad acting, for the punchlines and recording your audiences to make you feel better for the recording. You can read lines over and over like you can be crazy enough to straw hat. Privilege to find a crazy straw for the this no middle for the ground for the portraits, and you can have the sight for the sit out for the over the stoop and get like a soup gift for the staring over the sun blinding enough for the future for the future for like I got a dog. I see the side of the moon for the flaws. Sorry for the seek for the name for the only design. Every name for the like an autograph for the perspective to calculate your progress and repair the damage that has been lost. Take for the insurance, for the rates, for the heart, for the hike and hey, got nothing hike for the accident, for the due, for the paid attention, for the can't afford the premium. Luxury sweat for the hand carved. You can find the details inside of your handouts. And more for your rainy days, for the forecast for tomorrow, for the uneconomical, for the uneasy, for the spectator, for the labor pain, for the belly, for the cook, for the uncooked, for the better bake, for the standard, for the limitation, for the you can find a temperature for what it is to the degree, for the what's going on with the taste of your buzz, and when you can find a tongue. Expedited for the ship to the location. Stamp to the brain. Stamp to the brain. Stamp to the brain. Stamp to the brain. Expedited for the ship to the location for the be rare wrong for the well cheap rare vinny stories for heal the division for the destiny better yet for the contentment for the confinement for the tone for the it was only too loud to comprehend the technological for the comprehension what you can find without either wrong. Demanding something or something whether someone for the different than what I can read it for the this be the doubts to the whatever the people for the weapon and what you weep and this is seeping the solve for this and shame even more instead. Putting it now for the just to be the backyard of the process. Or the hives you can find for the dreams of the night, for the clouds and the clouds of the changing moods and the shifting shapes. And this would be the dreams into the night for the mirrors to the ways to the items to the subtle memory banks. And where you find the overdraft accounts and save yourself for the work. And it can be spending time for the spending someone, somebody else and anything. For the this to be the caring about for the saving, for the hardship, for the poor. For these and for all the spend out, send over, receive for the overdrafts and frontline stones. These backpack and back around, that for the burden for the people, for the carry on. You couldn't walk with it anymore without the people thinking never stable enough for them to be questioning instinct. smelling something fishy but can't find a sense, and this is what is missing for the evidence of the proof. Reading your age, and this would be the knot for the page. And you can find a reading for the rights of the ability the citizens arrested. This would be the rest of remaining peace, and this is a blind spot for the eye, for the owner, the storm, for the air, that for the mildew, for the situation that signals and pollutant and guilt and the breeze. Internet for the streets, for this is your own city, for the where you reside. You're married to the people for the votes of place and your insecurities and totes. Store the not for the grinds, for the errors, so you can have the errands, and maybe that people you're ignorant enough to store you returning. Yes, the refund for the recalling for the thought. Reclaim yourself for the endless, for the entitled, for the entertained. Greeds and grind, the grind, and great voids, and this is designed for the art and you intelligent, but not to reserve the resources for the reservoirs that are green. Disagree. You find this, and find this to be the rebuttal for the inside of the youth. You can find a rebound for this to be the foul play. After all, free throws, and that hasn't been practiced enough with the promising advance of years of blowing. Went up the assets for the city, on the assets for the settling down. With these assets, we can't feel the part for the far, the part for the shit, for the far out. With these, you can't kind of control for the leaking, for the waste of the being held up by the smell, the shift, and this will be the smell for the feeling compassion to help them clean over the aroma. Remember the lesson that should be the thing for the claw, for the arm, for the attack, for the mold, for the this to be the food, for the digestion, for the urine, we have the Lord for the organ to contain. You're purchasing for the temptation over what you insulted, for the stealing with no security guarding, and for the sight, for the surveillance, for the making yourself, for the feeling you're alienated, for the morals, and you can find them mortician for the mortals, and find the flowers to find the serenade. Opportunities to be like the ceremonies. Cremation for the promises, for the innocent, the promises, for the heated, for the memories, to spread your ashes on your reservation, the landfills of time, but like the haunting truth, for the interpretation, for the perspective. Truthful, hope, hurt, odor, those places on the lines, and those in your respect, for this to be the property. And just a trespassing approaching. And it's time for the celebrating. Ask yourself for present pedals and find the comfort for the level for the you can have the soul for the pedestrian. Memories do you have left? Die for the ghost town. Pedals and not for the comfort for the soul. Memories do you have left? Not to find die for the dying. My breath. This for the days, for this is the fine. But what being socially stepping out our lives, not for anything. For the brain, the forecast of unheard, easy for the limitation to find the moves and temperature. But it is for the degree, for the corner, bring you for the bus and the time, but around your waist, slip off your pre-plan for the slip of the beat, around the bush of the bad acting, to the brilliant brush that. Express that for the spec for the pressure, for the rubber, the friction, maybe the mountain, many faces. This would be the monuments. DC for the decency. Deserve for the dry humans, for the lives, and only mistakes. And this would be the only life. That for the earth, for the live, for the roar, for the dawn, for the open, the missing up, for the touching, for the poking, the provoking, the people, for the sake of the moon, for the get you close up, for the denying the legs, not the doubt, the goddess, and the held high. For them like seem to die for the sorrow, for the soul, for the path, and that you brought you like. Prepared to damage that. That's described. Take the down, cover the rate, your heart, for the confidence, and the right, for the active, for the do, deny, for the just to be lost in empty spaces, and excuses for the states and promises, swing to your people some pain, then just some time. Lines and tolerance for the narcissism, for the sarcastic, for the satin. Say your rainy days, turn you for what tomorrow, for the not the numbers in the script. Uneasy for the respect, for the labor, pain, for the other shot, for the distant, for the big, for the required adaptation, so you can find a chip over backgrounds and clean enough what's forgetting on with the taste your buzzing. Required muscles and conjunct and connection for the magic luck to the spilling to the words, and I can't cast a spell for the pickup of the word the song. Find someone to stumble over that for the misspelling, for the ability to read over the writing, for the copy to paste. I'll change the beat for the pace of the rhythm, reasoning for the resigning of which you can find control for the person in the control room for the operating your others excuses and find a budget, no room for the budget and bunk, sleep in the mood, and maybe the time for the same for the soul for the period to replace that for the comment for the dreams and the awakening of your paragraphs, and you can have a mind like the habits for the mindsets and mind for the oblivion for the stages and the bad acting for the punchlines and the audience to make this feel better for the this to be the age of the character for the read those lines over again like you can have the addition for the real approaching of the next stop instead of for the past to the present for the pedals of the comforts and souls a pedestrian that for the ghost land for the you can have that for the whole songs are scarce to say for the feet for the believing you're going to have the past and the present for the future for the this to be the breaking up for something to find a mistake for the maybe to have habit for the mindset for the mind of a believing. The reservation, find that, lost in the claim, and this would be the entitled for the entertainment. Resources of reservoirs of agreeing as you disagree. This for the point, for the this would be the pedigree. This for the never the news, and never the built for the familiar place, for the whatever wrong, for the distant mantle, for the owner declining. Putting in this would be the front of the after the mouth and the medals, and this would be the admission for the whether how somehow you pass and raise and roses over the cycles and fences to define a pedestal to raise yourself.